We're talking with Don Wettrick, who is the Broadcasting and Innovations class teacher at Franklin Community High School in Franklin, Indiana. I was fascinated by speaking with one of your students, Paige Woodard, and would love to know how does this innovations class work? It sounds like there's a lot of student run activities there.
Yeah, I got to start from the beginning in the sense that I was pretty inspired, like a lot of teachers were, by author Daniel Pink, who was inspired by the Google 20% model. And essentially, that's kind of where it started. I proposed to the school that I have a class of nothing but project-based, passion-based learning. And it took some maneuvering around, and it took some convincing. But I structured a class to where the students could pick out what they're passionate about, write a proposal, which I think was key. And then the real secret sauce of it is that they had to research their Common Core standards, and in their proposal tell me how they were going to learn more about that standard and show mastery. Because that's the first question I'm always asked by a lot of educators. How did you get away with it? How did you get your own class? So, by having them research the Common Core standards, it's a lot better than putting it up on the board and say, today we're going to work on this. They have to take control of their own individual learning. And so they're allowed to work on the things that they're dying to do and still fit within the criteria of what the school wants.
So, for example, what were some of the projects that they proposed and did?
Well, I mean, we've started with some that, well, first of all, the class has turned out to be very entrepreneurial in nature. Some people have a product, sometimes it's social service things. So some examples are, like last year, as an introductory project, one that was an easy one is that they collaborated with, and I'll get more on collaboration, but they collaborated with a local coffee shop, got product from them, got some coffee maker stuff, and then they were trained, and then they wanted to go into the special ed area of the school, and they trained the special needs students how to make coffee and how to sell it and how to make profit in the morning. So after about 2 weeks, the special ed students were trained, and they could move on from there. And just like a lot of entrepreneurs, that was it. They got it started up, and then they passed over the reins to the next group of students that were going to run it for the year. I think what's always key and important about this class is, and the reason why Paige reached out to you, is that you have to find collaborators. I don't pretend to know everything. I'm just a humble teacher. And so when my students want to get out there and they start wanting to collaborate with America's best experts, they have to do that. So even in their proposal, they start doing some groundwork on research. And we've had some students watch a 60-minute episode and find people on Twitter, read Fast Company magazine, look at blogs as yourself, reach out to America's best experts. Because normally when we talk about collaboration in education, we're normally talking about the student sitting next to the other student. And then there's not that there's anything wrong with that. I like it when students can collaborate with each other, but I think there's a certain magic and advantage of putting my students in contact with some of America's best people.
When I talked with your student about the role of social media, she mentioned being able to reach out from a small town in Indiana to anybody in the world using Skype and Twitter. And it sounded to me like she had been instructed. I don't know whether you used the terms personal learning network, but it sounded like that's what they were learning about, cultivating personal learning networks.
Right. One of the things that we hammer on first is that, this is one of the reasons why I love Twitter in the classroom, is that I tell them a lot of people are going to assume that you're a teenager and you don't do anything, that you're a millennial. And I said, when you prove them wrong, or if you treat yourself like a professional online, other people will be amazed and surprised. So they harness Twitter, YouTube, Facebook to show and demonstrate all the things that they're doing, and people are astounded. You will never catch my students posing, flipping people off, complaining online, because they're no longer that obsessed with getting followers of people their own age. They're obsessed with getting followers of people that can help collaborate with them. If they are their age, great. But they're never going to make the stupid mistake of doing embarrassing things online. They want to connect with people, and they want to demonstrate what they're capable of.
You know, many parents and school administrations exhibit a lot of fear of cutting their students loose on the internet. How did you work that?
Um, I think in some ways it happened naturally because it, a lot of it started last year when I was trying to encourage them to do social media, and I went ahead and I dove in first. That's the one thing I love about my job. I am the quintessential lifelong learner. Half the things that we do in this class, I have no idea what we're doing, and that's the whole point. There are no predetermined answers. So I started throwing myself out there on Twitter, and then I'll be honest, when we connected with Daniel Pink, that helped my numbers. And then when I was awarded Google Glass, that helped my numbers. But you know, we went from starting the year, I think I had 50 at the beginning of the school year, and by the end of the school year, I had 7,000. And it was because of the class. It was because of what they were doing. And you know, they were like, wow, if some 5'8" old guy like yourself can all of a sudden have a following, well then so can we. And they also noticed that my Twitter is, you'll never see anything but some of my students' work and the things that we're doing on my Twitter account. I keep it as professional as I can. So that inspired them to want to do it. And then, quite frankly, as we were rolling along last year, they started getting followers of people that had 100,000 people. There was a marketing expert out in New York, and I think he had 150,000 people. And every now and then we'd hit what they called Twitter gold. They'd get the retweet from a guy that was big, or funny, sometimes they'd get competitive on whose clout score was highest, on who would get a clout perk. So, you know, they would ask really great, inspiring, open-ended questions on Facebook and Twitter, knowing that that might up their clout score a little bit. So they're starting to learn amplification and their digital brand. I mean, they really understand their digital brand. They're wanting to make a name for themselves in a certain niche, and try to be as much of a student expert as they can. And a case in point, last year, one of the projects, some of their blogs started getting followed, and a couple people in Korea were getting back to these two students and saying, you're doing it all wrong, and before you make any further mistakes, look into this area. And poof, all of a sudden, because of their blogs and social media and all these other things, they're now in accord with learning from the best. And that's what's exciting to me. And so even if I do have a parent ask me, well, aren't there a lot of, the positives outweigh the negatives so much. And my other thing I tell them is that cars are also very dangerous, but you train your child how to responsibly drive a car. Social media can be dangerous, but where else in the world are you going to get this amplification? You know, when your student writes an essay, it is an audience of one. When your student has a blog and they amplify it, and they do a vlog on YouTube or they promote it on Twitter, now it's not just the teacher grading them. They have a true audience, and their digital brand has now been established. And that's something that you just can't do within a building. That's something that has to be amplified out.
So any advice to educators who'd love to emulate what you've been doing?
Yeah, do it. Unfortunately, so I've been blessed in that the school has been really, really good to me. Although I did have a bit of a reputation for asking for an apology instead of permission, a lot. But some people, you know, there's a lot of terms out there, 20% time, Google, Genius Hour, things of that nature. Just try it. Middle school, it doesn't matter. High school, it doesn't matter. But the two things that the roadblocks I have seen is, it is not for everybody. Freedom is a heck of a thing. I've had so many students say, I want to do this. I'm like, I always want a class where I can do what I want. All right, what do you want to do? Well, I don't know. And they're paralyzed because they really, you know, a student literally this week was crying and saying, I'm stuck. She says, I've gone to school for 11 years straight being told what to do, and I don't know what to do now that you say that I can do anything. So it's not for everybody. And the second thing is, don't be paralyzed by fear. You know, we talked about the social media thing, and then just opening it up. You will get criticized by others, and some parents might not like it at first until all of a sudden they see the process unfold. And the last bit is that nobody fails better than we do. We have had project after project after project collapse, and it's been beautiful. I think that's why we're so drawn to the entrepreneurial culture, is that we get them. We understand what a pivot is. We understand that just because this didn't work out and your focus group said you're doing it all wrong, you still have one foot planted there to pivot a little bit. We love that. So now we're to the point where even if we think that it might not work, we try things. So, if there's a teacher out there thinking, oh, this would be fun, but it wouldn't work for me, you never know. Give it a try. I also, this shameless plug time, I would highly recommend anybody want to get a hold of me to follow me on Twitter. I'm at Don Wettrick. That is DonWettrick. You can also get a hold of me at Gmail at dwettrick@gmail.com. I stop what I'm doing. I love to collaborate. And even if you're not an educator, if you're an entrepreneur or you have some valuable insights that my students could gain from, you are my new best friend. I tirelessly look for opportunities for my students to work with people.
Well, that's great modeling for cultivating a personal learning network, Don. And I am not going to be surprised at all a few years from now when the Mark Zuckerberg or Marisa Mayer of tomorrow says it all started in my innovations class with Mr. Wettrick. So I was very impressed with Paige, and I bet you have many others like that. So keep up the great work, and thank you.
Thank you.